welcome. Thank you for joining us for It's Covered, the insurance podcast. Because if you think that insurance is boring, you are not doing it properly. I'm Paul.
And I'm Mel.
We are in our second episode in a series. This is actually the first series we've done.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. We're doing it on interviews and interviewing and some of the stuff that doing interviews, I guess. I don't know. But if you missed last week's episode, you're going to be completely lost because I know you've never done an interview or been interviewed in your life. Obviously, I'm joking. Last time we just kind of talked about some generalities and a couple of ideas on interviews. But this episode, next episode, we're going to be talking about two particular techniques. And so while I encourage you to listen to our back episodes, which are all available, of course, for download and for your listening pleasure, you do not need it for this episode.
But it's beneficial.
Yes. Well, all of our episodes are beneficial.
Yeah, true.
You need to go back and listen to the last, 25 or so of them.
Yeah, exactly. You will be smarter for it.
Exactly. And how many podcasts can say that?
Yeah.
Actually, probably most of them.
Yeah. I would say not many.
Yeah. So,
just ours.
Just ours. So one of the things, and this has been kind of a really big change in our lifetime, is the gaining popularity of the behavioral style of interviews.
Right.
And interviews, back in the day used to be just a lot of kind of, tell me about your last job and, what qualities do you bring?
Yep.
And they're very apt for BS answers.
True.
The only time people actually get really critical of themselves is, when you say, what's the biggest thing you have to work on or your biggest fault? And of course, the answer is always, I feel like I work too hard.
Yeah, you have those answers that you want to give,
right?
But then you don't want anything to come back and bite you.
So the behavioral style, if you haven't run across this, and this has been really, really popular in, especially in the last few years, but I ran across it first in claims, and instead of just giving general answers about, are you normally on time or normally late or normally early? To which no one answers. I'm consistently 15 minutes late all the time, give me some qualities about yourself. What it tries to do is to get you to start telling stories. And in these stories, in their answers, kind of picking out the qualities that you're noticing in what they're saying. And so how this normally goes is you ask, and you always ask for an incident, a particular time where something like this has happened. And so tell me about a time where, one I got was, tell me about a time that you created, a procedure, for a job or something and implemented it and how that went. And so it's definitely not a yes and no question. It's not a short answer question. It's an essay question, except verbal.
Right.
And
it lets you, as an interviewer, gives you some time to take a drink of your coffee because their brain is exploding trying to think of something.
Right. Yes. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting to watch people encounter this, and whenever I interview people, there's a couple of warnings I try to give them. First of all, your instinct is to say, oh, I always did that. Don't do that. Tell me about one time you did it. Yeah. Because the difference between I always did that is that you're reporting on the ideal average of all of these incidents.
Right.
But when you're talking about one time, then you can get into the nitty gritty of how people reacted to you and how you reacted to their reaction and back and forth and how it really plays out. And so you really get a sense of how people respond in situations. And I've found it to be, and because you're getting into such detail on a particular situation, you normally do kind of get a sense of where they might be going wrong and where some of their bad qualities are coming out.
Oh yeah. You can totally kind of see with that question, the answer coming in, and they're going to pick the most prominent one in their mind, which is one they're most proud of. And based on what they say, you can see if they're kind of petty, if you're like, yeah, that really didn't do much, if that's the best you got.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you can see how they view their accomplishments.
Right. And you want to do follow-up questions on these.
Okay.
And really dig into the details. And this is where things start really popping up. And I'll give you an example of like the difference between like an always question and a particular question. He's like, how, tell me, do you try to go above and beyond for your customers? Oh yeah. Yeah. If the customer's unhappy, then we definitely want to go above and beyond, all the time. Versus tell me about a time. Oh, well, so-and-so, their order didn't come in. And so I got on the horn and told them, like, hey, we need that order in. Oh yeah. Well, tell me about, how did you react? What did the customer say to you? I said, listen, Bob, I need my order in. And I said, hey, it wasn't my fault. But I'll call the person that his fault was. So all of a sudden you're seeing some stuff come up.
Right. Right, yeah.
They're passing the blame off to somebody else. They want to make it clear. It's like, hey, it's not my fault, but I guess if you want me to, I'll go above and beyond.
Exactly.
And so this is an area where you're getting a much narrower answer, but with the narrowness of the answer, you can deep dive into it. And that's really, really helpful. And so our normal in-person interview is maybe like 4 or 5 of these questions, because each one can go for a while.
Yeah.
Depending on the amount of detail they give and how many, and with some people, you're really, they're used to really the short answer, style, and you are just trying to get information out of them, just pry it out of them. Okay. So what happened next? Oh, it went fine. What did your supervisor say? Oh, she said it was fine. Stuff like that. And that tells you something as well. And so, each one of these questions can go 10 minutes, at times. And and the way I normally do it is print out the questions 2 per page, one at the top and one at the middle, because you've done this. We just fill up the rest of that space with notes.
Yeah. I think ours really went long because the way I think of things is different from the way you think of things, is different from the way our other coworker, thinks of things. So right. We could come at it from all different angles or experiences. So, we always had follow-up questions. There was really never a time where we were just stumped or just, okay, just quiet. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's one of the reasons that kind of a group interview is often very, very good.
Yeah.
Because somebody will ask a follow-up question that you didn't think of. Right. You're like, oh, that was a good one,
Yeah.
And so you're having somebody talk about a particular moment in their life. And yes, it's going to be a moment that when they started the story, they think is going to impress you. But one of the weird things that happens is that because people are nervous and because they think that I need to get an answer out right away, they very often don't pick the one that they would think of later in the car.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
They was like, oh, that was a much better example. They normally do something that's more recent and just pops into their brain. And it might not be the most, the one that's most kind of sympathetic to them.
Right. Yeah.
And our goal is not necessarily to have something that just makes me seem like a superstar.
Yeah. We don't want to, the question is so you get an honest answer, whether it's new or old or, one of the most important, but you're getting an honest answer out of them. You're, seeing, like you said, how they handled it and what they did. Later on, if you had time to prepare, they may have brought up something different, but that falls into that, best foot forward type of thing.
Yep.
And, this is a great way to get beyond that without, wondering if it's real or not. Because the follow-up questions, they most likely won't make up something, because it doesn't get too far when they're trying to formulate it with us sitting there listening to everything they say.
Yeah. When it stops making sense, you're like, you're full of it, dude, But
we catch those pretty quick too, down there, when they're going down that path, then they go, well, you know what? Then they usually admit and say, well,
no, it didn't happen quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the additional detail really does, set off some BS detectors, which is great when you're interviewing. We never do 100% positive, questions. There's always a question in there about, tell me a time when you tried something and failed, and that tells you something too. And that tells you a lot, and that gets away from what is your worst quality? I work too hard. Yeah, that's such baloney. It's like, people are ready for some, just some kind of humble brags.
Yeah.
I care too much. I care about my job too much. It gets away from that stuff and makes them actually dig deep into something that did not work. And the point is not that, we want somebody who succeeds 100% of the time. It's what do you do when you're failing? And how did that play out?
Yeah.
Did you keep at it? Did you keep trying and it just didn't work? Or did you throw your hands up in disgust? What happened? Because we don't succeed 100% at the job. And, if you're getting that impression from an interviewee, then you haven't asked enough questions.
Yeah. And these questions are, with the person that's interviewing, you may have not had any experience with their previous job. It may be totally different from insurance. It could be, the furthest thing from it. And the questions and the follow-up questions, asking them to explain it, you really get an idea, regardless of their background, how their brain works and how they work at their job.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We had one that had worked at a payday loan place before the interview. And we asked, tell us about a time that you implemented a procedure in your job and how it went. And her response was that, they just had these filing cabinets full of files and they were disorganized. And so she alphabetized them. And it's like, well, that's actually a really good practical answer. And we were just bewildered. It's like, how did no one before you alphabetize the files? How do you find these things? And we were just so taken aback that no one had done it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that, apparently this is a place with such small work ethic that, it's just like, put in the filing cabinet is standard. And it actually took her, stepping forward, and it's like, okay, everybody else is here is super lazy, but I'm not going to be, and I'm going to organize a stupid filing cabinet. And that tells us something about her work, her old job, but it tells us something about her too.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the payday type of places, the loan places. I have been in those before, and I think the turnover is the big thing. Just the employee turnover, and the fact that in a list of employees coming in there, she just didn't stick with the way it was before. She actually said, "Hey, I got this job. I'm here now. I'm gonna make it better."
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah. And that takes a lot. It's like, one of the best interviews I ever had was a woman who worked for Walmart and, rose to be manager and all this other stuff. And, you've been in Walmart, and people who are diligent about their work in Walmart are hard to come by.
Yeah.
And that those people are actually working against the culture of the place in a good way.
Yeah.
And so that actually says a lot about somebody if you're in a place that is not known for its hard work and you work hard anyway, that says something. And so, there's a lot you can glean from these sorts of questions. So you're going to have a far, far fewer questions in this type of a style. But you're going to get into a lot more detail. And so this is something we've used pretty extensively here. And I learned it in claims. And I'm noticing that a lot more people are really getting on the bandwagon of this style of interview. What's that? Glassdoor, I think it is the website that lists interview questions that people come across.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that a lot of them are using these questions. And, just for fun, I Googled, behavioral interview, and Google had just a ton of suggested questions. So these are not even stuff you have to make up on your own. There's plenty of examples on there. But you want something that's going to make them think of a story that they're not going to come in having prepared, So like one that is a really good question, but might be at this point, used too often is tell me about a time that you had to deal with an upset customer, one of my favorite ones was, tell us about a time when you were behind in your work and how you caught up.
Yeah.
Or if you were, or how, tell us about a time that you had to, kind of organize your work in order to accomplish it or something like that. To make them just lean back and think about that for a little bit. You want them to hit various areas that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
If you're hiring somebody for inventory control, probably lay off the customer service questions,
Yeah.
Talk about organization more,
Yeah. Don't read the question and go, well, it says here, and you're reading a question, actually, if it's not right for the person or the situation, or if it's not going to get you what you want, change it up a little bit, but, just get what you need out of the person. And, if the question isn't going to do that, like the inventory control, person, and you're asking them about customer service, change it up a little bit to kind of get what you want out of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, they're definitely available here. Now the way I was originally taught this system is that using this style is you grade the answers themselves instead of grading the person. And the whole point was to try to take your personal preferences, likes and dislikes and instincts out of the process and really judge them on their performance. I feel like people have been getting away from that, and we certainly have never fully embraced that. Cause like we were talking about in the last episode, an office culture is hugely important. And if somebody comes in and they answered all the questions well on how they handle conflict in the workplace and all, but they're not jiving with the culture and they're making everybody miserable, it doesn't really matter how well they scored. So I've always felt like it needs to be a blend. You know, it needs to be a blend of let's hear the objective answers to questions that you are asking each and every person that walks through the door. That's also taking your day and emotions out of it. You know, cause if I'm, you know, like we talked about this a little bit last episode too. If I'm really upset about a particular topic, left to my own devices, my entire interview might be on that topic. And then I haven't really learned anything. So using the exact same questions for every single candidate takes that out of it. And it really starts letting you compare apples to apples. But I'm a firm believer that there's a lot more you need to take into account too. And that is, you know, is how the people are acting, how they're interacting with everyone, how they are incorporating themselves into the culture of the office. Because, you know, these are people we're going to have to work side by side with each and every day.
That's right.
And so we want them to not annoy the snot out of us.
Right. So, you know, whenever we're interviewing people, you know, we have to think long and hard when they say, yes, I am a vegetarian and I drive a Prius. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just our culture here. Do we want to throw that in there?
Let me clarify that for a little bit, because this was a person. It's not so much the vegetarianism or the Prius. It was the preachiness of it. Because that's just going to set us off.
There you go. I think
we're going to start bringing steak every day.
That's right.
Just to annoy them.
Yeah.
So that was the problem. That was the real problem there. That person was not hired.
Right. So, yeah. I think I thought the preachiness of it was a given. When you put that combination together.
Yeah, the vegetarians and drive a Prius.
That
what
wasn't
what is that joke? The vegan, the cyclist and someone else walk into a bar. Which is going to be the first one to talk about it?
Oh wow! I mean, well, it was just, you know, our other coworker. Whenever we have someone that's ordering out, and they get shrimp or house fried rice, and the special instruction is to remove all of the vegetables.
And it wasn't just remove the veggies. It was all the veggies.
All the veggies from fried rice.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So, yeah.
That was not going to work. That was not going to work. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how he answers the questions. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
When he's coming to like the first conversation outside of an interview context that he's having with me is, about, being a vegan. It's like, this isn't going to work, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you know, the first time that it comes up and you hear in the background, you know, you should. And then after that,
death mayhem.
Yes, exactly. It's just not going to go well.
What is the line about Armageddon and Ghostbusters? I've heard that. I remember the last part is, dogs and cats, laying down together.
Yeah. That's how it would be.
If I remember it, we will insert that line right here.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
And if you didn't hear that line right then I got lazy in the audio editing. Or you're watching the video, in which case y'all out of luck. That's way too much. That's way too complicated.
You should go watch the movie again anyway.
Yeah, goodness.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Okay. So that is that. I do encourage you to look this up, to watch some videos on it. It's all over. If you just do behavioral interview, you'll find a ton of resources on it. And, I think it has made our interviews a lot better. And so, it's something that I continue to use and have been using for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And so there's that. We are going to talk about another technique that I much more recently found out about that was very cool, but is very labor intensive. But it still might be worth it for you. And so we will be doing that next episode. But until then, we really do appreciate you listening. We're here each and every Monday morning to kind of give you some topics to think about, to warm up your mind for the week, to get you ready to serve your neighbor in this crazy chosen profession of ours of protecting people's stuff. So, thank you again, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.